Hello, welcome to Black Comics Universe, presented by Peep Game Comics, exclusively here on The Experience. Please help us out by hitting share on this video and giving us a like and a follow. Then make sure to tune in for our original programming. That's The Experience's original programming. 7 days a week. Black Comics Universe streams live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on all DSPs. That's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. And of course, as always, please stay tuned after my show for Miss Jen's Minute to Skim It. That comes up next. All right. Tonight is just me, and I would like to share my current pull list. But before I get into that, I just want to share a few things. I think this is episode 40, which is kind of an interesting milestone. I did some math. I might be off by 1 or 2 episodes, but I'm fairly certain this is episode 40 of the Black Comics Universe. It's very exciting. This all started in February when I did a series of interviews for 2 days straight with the help of Kyle, my producer, my cousin Victor Dandridge. We interviewed some really great people, and we extended this throughout the year, and now we're at episode 40, I believe. That's the number. I'm sticking with it. All right. So I wanted to share a few books with you guys. Take the time to share a few books with you guys. These are the books that I'm personally collecting. And so these are books that are on my pull list. Also want to share with you just the idea of a pull list and what that is. I'm not assuming that everybody is familiar with the pull list and how that works. So I might, enlighten you on that if you're not familiar. Also, I wanted to share with you some of my trepidation as to actually creating one. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of creating a pull list, but I've definitely found that I need it at this point. I want to stay ahead of a lot of things now, and this definitely keeps me, ahead of things by creating a pull list. Yes, BCU 2, Age of Ultron starts in a couple of weeks. Yes, the planning begins soon. The Age of Ultron, that's actually kind of ominous, but yes, I'm very excited to get started on the next BCU event. So the first thing,
I couldn't come up with a good sequel name off the top of my head. I struggled. I thought about it for like 2 minutes. I'm like, we're just gonna go with Age of Ultron. It's the only thing I
yeah.
But no, for real, we are gonna have dates for BCU here in a couple weeks. BCU 2.
BCU 2 is coming up.
All right.
I like that. I like BCU 2 actually.
Right. It's like BCU 2, back to the BCU.
Back to the future.
I don't know.
But yeah,
the sequel I come up with is a Whoopi Goldberg movie sequel. Back in the Habit.
Back in the Habit. What's the choir one?
That's that one. That's Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit.
Oh, right. Back in it.
Right. That's J.D. Smith. I had to fight that one to not use Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
BCU 2 BCU 2 Electric Boogaloo. That might have it. Yeah.
Airplane 2, the sequel.
The sequel, BCU 2, the sequel.
Yeah,
these are all very good names, and so yeah, I'm definitely.
Imani and I'll start working on that here in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
I'll let him get back to his otherwise scheduled programming.
Yes, I appreciate it. And I might bring you back on later. Who knows? So yeah, I wanted to share with you. So I want to invite everybody to check out my website, blackcomicsuniverse.com. I've been writing some articles on there, and one of the articles I've been writing is I've been choosing what I call a key of the week, a Black comic key of the week. So last week I shared a couple of keys. I shared Marvel Team Up number 100, I believe it was, and Batman Annual number 8. That's what I shared last week. And so this week I wanted to share, which is an indie book, Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer number 1. Now, the reason why I'm considering this a key is because there's recent news. One, this is a good book, number one. So if you haven't gotten a copy of this book, I definitely suggest that you get a hold of it ASAP, because recently they have joined with my friend Sebastian Jones of Stranger Comics and a gentleman by the name of, I want to get this name right. I believe it's Penny Price, I believe it is, but I could be wrong. But yeah, Penny Price is the showrunner of the HBO show Insecure. Prentice Penny, that's his name. Prentice Penny. He's the showrunner of the HBO show Insecure. And they want to basically help independent comic book creators, Black independent comic book creators, develop their intellectual properties for movies and television. And the two books that they've chosen are Jason Wise, which is a very popular book. It's fairly old, but it's definitely been around for some time. Very established independent comic, and Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. And so with that, I definitely think it is time, you definitely want to get your hands on this book. He hasn't gone into trade yet, and I think that might be coming up soon. And I don't know if he'll ever, stop printing this or take it out of circulation, but you definitely want to get a hold of a copy of this book, Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. It happens to be on sale on Peep Game Comics. I have copies of Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer #1 signed, and I sell them bagged, boarded, signed, and placed in PVC top loaders. So check that out on peepgamecomics.com. So yes, that's my key of the week. And we got a chance to interview him on our first Black Comics Universe event. I've been following him for some time. I know that he's been turning down offers and been turned down a lot. So I'm very happy that he's actually in a place where he's actually got a deal that's definitely going to, that respects his vision. And I'm very excited to see what comes of this. So shout out to my man, David Crownson. That's illustrated by Cortland Ellis, who's a great artist on that book too. So next, I want to move on to my pull list. And before I get into it, I want to talk about the fact that I really wasn't always a fan of pull lists. I've been reading comics ever since the 90s, high school, a little bit before that, and junior high. But I was never one of those guys that spend a ton of money on a extensive pull list and or subscribe to books that I pick up in the shop every week. One of the main reasons, especially now, is that it's this weird commitment that I have to make to each of those titles, which now most of these titles don't run past 6 or 12 issues, number one. Number two, I was, I recently started my collection. I've been focusing on, number one or key issues, as they say, which typically is a number one, a first appearance, key moments in books. The vast majority of my collection is actually, over 10 years old, if not older. So I wasn't really looking to put together a pull list, but there's been some very interesting key books that are coming out that I want to be sure I am on it. So I changed it up, and actually I stepped into this other realm of comic book collecting. And so just so you know, if you're not into comic book collecting and you're looking to get into comic book collecting, all these aspects of comic book collecting aren't necessarily mandatory in terms of collecting comics, but as you get deeper and deeper into the hobby, you'll find that some of these habits or some of these things that a lot of collectors do actually help. Okay, cool. Actually help you in your collection as far as seeking out books. My LCS right now, where I have my pull list, is at Freedom Comics, and I really dig that shop. What's really interesting about that shop is they offer they offer services like they will clean and press your books for you, and they are a hub for CDC. So if you have a book that you want to have sent to CDC, you can actually take it there and set up an account and things like that for CDC as far as having your books graded. You can do that all through that one shop. So I actually like that. And they tend to like have a larger stock of comics compared to the other shops in my city. I live in here in Toledo, Ohio. Not all the shops that I know of, not all of them really stock of a wide variety of books. And I would say that Freedom Comics probably has the widest variety of books available every Wednesday. That's just been my experience. I can't necessarily speak for a whole lot of other people. The other thing I did and been trying out also is I created an account on what's called Previews World. If you're familiar with this magazine, that you've seen this, you might not have ever thought to pick it up, but this magazine here, this thick magazine, which only costs a couple bucks, this shows you everything that's coming up for sale within the next couple months and things like that. I start their website, Previews World. I actually created what's called a pull box account, and so everything that's on my pull list is synced into that account. And then so if I take something off or add something that I see is coming up in a couple months, a book that's coming up in a couple months, I can add it to my pull list, and they get notified automatically through this service, which is actually pretty cool. And we're sort of like testing it out. They actually said I was the first person they thought to ask to do this, so I thought that was cool. So that's basically so for instance, everything that I share with you tonight is on my pull list on Pullbox, Previews World Pullbox. And if you happen to have a LCS that's set up on Previews World, you could probably do the same. I think there's a similar service through Comix Hub as well. They do something similar, I think, but I'm not sure. But the closest Comix Hub shop for me is in Michigan. There's no Comix Hub shops here in Toledo. But so that's what I've been using. I've been using Previews World to track my pull list. All right. So I want to walk through my pull list, and if you happen to, be a fan of any of these books, League of Comic Geeks, I've come across that service, and I don't use the service, but it seems like I'm on that site every week just to see what comes out every week. It's the first. Of course, they got the algorithms just right. It's the first site that comes up whenever you do a Google search as far as new comic book day. So I've been checking that website out. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I should do like a whole post about all these. There's a ton of websites out there too to help. That helps you track your collection, keeps you updated as far as what books are coming out each week and things like that. And I tend to like these websites better than your typical Newsarama or CBR. But I'll get into that in another post. But yeah, there's a ton of apps and websites that can help you in comic book collecting. I'll definitely put that on my list of topics. All right. So when they asked me my LCS asked me to set up a pull list. They said, would you like to become a subscriber? And it was weird because I couldn't think of, I had to have 5 books, at least 5 books. And for the life of me, I couldn't think of 5 books off the top of my head that I could just say, I want to commit to these 5 books for the next however many months to pick up, which is weird. So it took me like 2 or 3 weeks before I put together this pull list. And it just so happens that this book, which comes out every 2 or 3 weeks, I believe, actually helped me out a lot because I could see in front of me everything that was coming out. So it's something that you might want to pick up. It giving you an idea as to not just what's in store, but basically what's coming up in the next few months and things like that, because things move fairly fast. Well, it doesn't seem like it moves fast in the comic book industry, but sometimes it does move fast if you're not paying attention. So without any further ado, I would like to step into my first few books. First, I had to start with, I figured that if I was going to have a pull list, I should, commit to a couple of, I call the classics, classic Black comics. And of course, as we know, there's a new Black Panther series that's coming up. And I added Black Panther #1 to my pull list. It's written by John Ridley. The artist is Juan Cabal. And of course, what's really driving the buzz for this book, I think, has been the Alex Ross artwork on this cover. This is a wraparound cover, and it's like, off the hook. So I'm anxious to see this book. It's been pushed back a couple times. Maybe I can get Kyle to chime in. I know it might be pushed back to the end of this month, but I could have swore I saw something that said it was pushed back to January, but I could be wrong. But at the same time, this is why it's good to have a pull list, so that you are, no matter what happens, you'll always have that book and you won't miss out, because there's been times I've walked into my shop anxious to get a book and they didn't order enough for just people to walk in and grab a copy. But I don't necessarily have to worry about that now, because I've already ordered this ahead of time, and this will be ready for me whenever this dang old book comes out. I think it's at the end of this month, but
I'm looking.
I think it's either late November, but I could have swore I saw something that said January, but I could be wrong. This whole paper shortage thing is really pushing back in a lot of books, and I know that this is one of the books that it was definitely impacting. And but we can get back to that later. The other classic that I picked up, added to my pull list, was Luke Cage, City of Fire, written by Ho-Che Anderson. Now, that name, if you're not familiar, Ho-Che is an amazing artist. He's not the artist on this book, which I was kind of bummed out about. But I do see some familiar names, in particular Sean Hill. So I'm very anxious to see how this book turns out. It's a City of Fire. It's a very short series, but it should be pretty interesting. I'm very, like, Ho-Che Anderson is, it's like an old school name. So it's like I'm excited to see him back writing for the Big Two. And I think this is going to be a very interesting book. Basically, I think it's sort of like there was a movie that came out called 16 Blocks or something like that, where a guy had to take somebody who's, one of those movies where, like, there's a witness that is under somebody's protection. You got to get them to the courthouse type of thing. Like, that's what this story is all about. Luke Cage is protecting this a witness or this innocent person from the Kingpin and all his minions or whatever, to get this person through the city to, testify and bring down the Kingpin. So I think that's going to be pretty interesting. I'm anxious to see this book. I have no idea when it comes out, but I just added them to my pull list. Okay, next. So I got two classics for sure. Now, I added Monkey Meat. Now, this is by Junie Ba. This is one of the creators that we actually interview here on Black Comics Universe. You could check that interview out on the at DEXP on YouTube. Please check out that interview. A very, very fascinating interview with him. He did some work for DC. This is his independent comic series that's going to be coming out through Image. He released this originally as a digital book, and I purchased it on Gumroad. It might have been over a year ago. 11/24. All right, from your mouth to God's ears. Black Panthers due out 11/24 in a couple of weeks, so we'll see. So yeah, back to Monkey Meat. And basically, I can't remember what this book is about, but it's crazy. But it's like a fictional island where they sell this product that I can't remember what the story is about, but his artwork alone is why I pick up the book. Why I pick up a lot of his. He done a lot of covers for Dark Blood, book from Boom Studios, and I've been picking that book up just for his covers mainly. So I'm a huge fan of his artwork. I can't remember what the story is about, but I'm gonna buy the whole thing. So it's on my pull list. And the main
Do
reason
you
why
want me to read the monkey meat solicitation?
Sure, go ahead.
The Monkey Meat Company made its fortune selling cans of processed meat all around the world. Using that money to fuel their wacky experiments, they turned their native island into a magical, hyper-capitalist hellscape where even demons have to pay rent. Follow the lives of the creatures of Monkey Meat Island in this fun, action-packed romp. Each issue is its own story.
Yep. And it's interesting to that point that each issue is its own story. We had a really interesting conversation about comics and creating comics, and something that came up was that he in particular was looking to steer clear of creating this whole idea of like creating like these franchise stories that that have to run for hundreds and hundreds of issues and things like that. So it's very heartwarming that he's creating a book that is basically one and done. It's like these, encapsulated stories. It's basically it's an example of the art of storytelling, how comics can be utilized to tell, just a good story. Like every comic doesn't have to be a part of like a huge mega, franchise story, mega movie type of deal. It can be its own, encapsulated story. So I'm very glad he's looking to do that, which makes each issue interesting and unique, as opposed to like I got to pick up number 2 because number 1 left me on the cliffhanger. So I'm very excited to see that book. Next up, I have Nita Halls, I believe. My next book is, yes, Nita Halls, Nightmare Blog. This is not issue 4 cover, but this series is off the hook. I've been saying that this book is my book of the year as far as Black comics go. A quick hi from Nicholas Gotra. I will be sure to watch the rewind. Thank you for the content. All right, no problem. Appreciate you jumping on. I see I got a few more views on YouTube, which is pretty interesting. So I'm excited to see that. Nita Hall's Nightmare Blog. I love the writing in this book, and I'm definitely claiming this as my book of the year. If there's another book on this list, if it doesn't, knock my socks off. I really like the writing in this. Ronnie Barnes, who is the writer from Philadelphia, is the creator of this book, and this is like an extension of his Philadelphia universe. And basically, Nita Hawes is this supernatural expert who basically helps people through her website as far as facing facing supernatural experiences. And this is set in Baltimore, I believe, and there's a demon basically that has invaded the city and is turning the whole city upside down, and she's about to find herself in the middle of all that. And I really like this. It's first issue of this book, so this is definitely on my pull list now. I'm committed to the long haul for this book, and we'll see where this goes. He's also recently joined. I'm not sure about that. It might be as far as it being a prelude to Philadelphia, but we'll see. He's one of the creators that have joined Substack. So a lot of these stories, he has stories that extend from the Philadelphia universe that are on his Substack. And he has another story called, what's that guy's name? It's Gatlin. It's a Western. It's like Spawn meets Clint Eastwood type of storyline. It's a digital story on his Substack. So check this out. The artist is Well B, but I think what it is that he's drawing over the artist from Philadelphia's layouts. You can sort of see some of the style sort of carries over. It's so it's kind of like two artists are working on this book, but the covers are really dope because I like the cover. I've got one of the variants for issue 1, and they have it sort of illustrated like a Saturday Evening Post, like what's the artist's name? The popular artist from Saturday Evening Post. I can't remember, but basically
Norman Rockwell.
Damn it. Yes, Norman Rockwell, who's actually one of my favorites. So it's kind of messed up. I had a brain fart there. But yes, it's a really dope. So those covers are really dope. And so yeah, I'm really excited about this book. And I'm really excited about Ronnie Barnes and what he's been doing because he's been kicking butt lately. Another person we interviewed, and I've been kind of intentionally but unintentionally adding people to my pull list that I've actually talked to. He talks a lot about his work ethic in our interview, and he's basically like he got to pay the bills. But this guy, on top of this book, he has a Substack. He's still Philadelphia is still coming out regularly. He did out of nowhere. He did an issue of War of the Bounty Hunters that just came out last week, which that totally flew over my head. Didn't realize that was even coming out. So that's this dude. It's like, when you talk about someone who's basically churning out content on a regular basis, this dude is like puts in a ton of work. So yes, so please support Ronnie Barnes and all his books. That's one of the ways that I like to collect. I actually follow specific authors in the work that they do. So writers like Ronnie Barnes, David Walker, I tend to gravitate towards these authors in the work that they do. So regardless of what they're writing, and he's writing the James Bond series, so like this guy, Evil Dead 1978, I think it is. He's also writing that book. I don't know where he finds the time or how he does it, but he does it. I think he could possibly be. Well, one, I got a question on one, but I think two, I think he could probably be the first Black author of Batman. I think he could be that person to do that. I don't think there's been a Black Batman author, and I'm not talking about a Batman series. I'm talking about the Batman book. I think he could possibly be the first Black Batman author because he has such a wide range. I would love to know if there's ever been a Black writer on Spawn, which I think he could really kill as far as writing for Spawn. I don't know if there's ever been a Black writer on Spawn either, which I think is interesting. All right, so enough of that. Now, Ronnie Barnes, he writes for television too. So, like I said, I don't know where he finds the time, but he told me the way he kills writer's block is because he got to feed his mortgage. That was his trick.
I didn't want to be this guy, but I got to pop in.
Be the guy.
Christopher Priest wrote Batman.
Christopher Priest wrote the Batman?
Yeah, he wrote Batman.
Like issues of Batman or like just a fill-in issue?
About 4 issues.
About 4 issues?
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's the thing. It's like,
hey, you can't.
No, I get it.
Maybe Rodney Barnes would be the first with a number 1. A reboot.
I'm talking about a Scott Snyder,
right?
Tinian, run on Batman. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, you
No,
know what
and
I'm
I
talking
hear
about.
that,
It's like, you know, it's like, but I'm definitely gonna find these Christopher Priest issues for sure. But I'm just saying, like, a
I've got
really,
them. If you want them, I know I got multiples. But no,
let's
it's
just go ahead.
the thing about it is, right, is that Ronnie Barnes is going to be one of those guys who they reboot Batman around him taking over.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
That's
That's
that's that's the key, right? There's been a bunch of people who've written Batman,
mm-hmm.
you know, all different races, genders, that kind of stuff. But very rarely do they reboot the character around somebody, and Rodney Barnes is a guy who could do it.
He could do that. He can make it dark. He can make it but he knows how to, you know, create characters and, you know, supporting cast, or, you know, he's it'll be a very personal story, you know what I mean? It's like he's very, very good at, you know, tying in, you know, folklore into everyday life too. So it's, I would, you know, love to see Rodney Barnes write for Batman.
All right, I'm gonna get back out of here.
All right, whatever. You'll be back, I'm sure. Which leads me into my next book. I believe it's The Thing. I believe no, Wildfire. Okay, cool. So yeah, so the other thing on my list are independents, just like Junie Ba's book. This is another book from an independent from Hannibal Taboo, another creator that we have, written by Hannibal Taboo and co-created with Quinn McGowan. This is Project Wildfire. This is another creator that we have interviewed here on the Experience. One of the main reasons why I added this book is, one, of course, it's an independent book. I wanted to make sure that I ordered it through my LCS, so to make sure that they had a copy for me. Two, I think now I'm all about indies finding their way into the direct market for some reason now. I wasn't always like that. I was the kind of the guy that sort of like, you know, just focus on your online sales, focus on Kickstarters, focus on, you know, social media, things like that. And it might feel or seem passe for me to even suggest this, but it's something about walking into a comic book shop and seeing an independent book that you supported from, you know, from years back. So like, I've read this book, I've supported this book years ago when it was an independent comic, but seeing this book on an actual comic book rack is something about that. So this is on my pull list. It's not out yet, but it's, you know, it's definitely on my pull list. I'm anxious to pick up a copy of this from my LCS. I think it's important to get these books and support these books in a direct market, because from what I've seen on the average, most of the creators that I follow that are basically building their audience through Kickstarter, I'm seeing them raise the money, but I'm not seeing them build the audience that they could possibly build through the direct market. So what I'm saying is, like, we have Marcus Roberts from Second Sight, who's, you know, one of the publisher of this book. He was talking about how the average sale of a book in the direct market is around 2,000 to 2,500 books. That sounds small, but consider the fact that the average Kickstarter that I've seen has, you know, the largest Kickstarter that I've seen, even though they raised all their money, they met their goals, it's like no more than 500 to 600 some backers, right? And which is not bad. That's awesome. Those numbers are awesome, but 2,500 at a minimum is, yes, that's off the hook. And some of the books that I know of that are still independent and not in the direct market, I know for a fact could beat those numbers. Those are numbers that you have to have in order to stay in the direct market. But I know that the biggest obstacle for a lot of indies is time. Being able to push out a book every month is probably daunting, but a lot of these creators are sitting on several issues of their book. So, needless to say, I am encouraging all of my indie friends to find a way into the direct market as long as you can protect your, intellectual property. Partner with somebody like Second Sight. He's anxious to help creators get into the direct market. He has a lot of quality books. A lot of the books and a lot of the creators he's helped have been optioned for, television and film, just like Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. So there's something to the idea of, even if from a marketing standpoint, finding your way into the direct market. And that's one of the main reasons why I want to support this book, because they did it. They pulled it off. They made their way into the direct market. And I think that should be celebrated. It seems like a small thing, but really it isn't. It's a fairly big deal. Which brings me to my next book, which is Emirate. I should know this. The Thing. Now, I'm really excited about this book. This is written by, of course, from Marvel Comics, whatever. Written by Walter Mosley. Now, I have an interesting story. Here in Toledo, Ohio, we used to have an independent bookstore called Thackeray's Books. And Walter Mosley came and visited our local comic book bookstore, and I had my book signed and stuff like that. And in this interview, and when he did the Q&A, he mentioned how much he loved comics and grew up around comics, and he loved the Fantastic Four. And back then, this is over 10 years ago, I believe this interview was, or this book signing. And I think he had pitched it to Marvel even, but what he wanted to do was create like a coffee book of Fantastic Four #1, and basically each page would be a panel. Like, he had this huge, ambitious idea or pitch for the Fantastic Four. So that was years ago, and ever since then, I've been anxiously waiting to see him write anything in comic form. And and when I saw this, of course I had to add this to my pull list, and I wasn't surprised that he chose The Thing. No, I haven't interviewed this person, but I have interviewed David Walker, and he mentions The Thing as his favorite, one of his favorite comic book characters growing up, because he could identify with The Thing culturally in the idea that The Thing sort of symbolized his blackness. And so I'm very interested to see how Walter Mosley, yes, 15 years. Wow, it was 15 years ago. Yep. I'm very interested to see how Walter Mosley unpacks The Thing's character in that regard. He is like, if you're familiar with his books, so Walter Mosley is he's a fiction author who's famous for The Devil in a Blue Dress, the Easy Rawlins mystery series. Several books in that series, and most of those books are set in Los Angeles, but he's originally from New York. I mean, I think he's originally from New York, but some of the books that he's written are set in New York as well. And so I'm fairly certain it's going to be I think the actual city is going to be a huge character in this book. And he knows how he's phenomenal at creating, characters, supporting casts around main characters and things like that. Maybe I can get Kyle to read off the description for this book as well. For The Thing, Marvel The Thing #1. I could pull it up myself.
You caught me choking on my own existence.
I'll pull it up. Hold on.
I was also looking up Thackeray's books, because, man, I miss that place.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, 15 years. Now that's been an eternity.
I'm not seeing this one.
course, now I can't find it. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, it's not in my system yet. It must not be out for a while.
No, it comes out this week. Ryder Bosley, the art by Tom Riley, which I've actually saw a couple previews of, which is really nice. The story remains from the urban sprawl of the alleys of Manhattan to the furthest reaches of the cosmos itself. In the thing, a lonely evening and a chance encounter, or is it? Sends Ben Grimm embarking on a sojourn that will have him confronting and battling figures both old and new. It features appearances from throughout the Marvel universe. Yeah, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so I'm very interested to see what Walter Mosley does. This could be my book of the year. I've already said that Nita Hall's was, but if Walter, does what I think he's capable of doing with this book, then I will swap it out with this. All right. My next book is I believe it's White. I'm still on this series. It's almost finished with 6, I believe. This is one of the main reasons why this is on my list is because I like the covers. And if I don't, and I'll have to bring Kyle in to explain this, but the way this dang on print run goes, if I don't order this book, I won't get the first printing of this book. And that's a big issue. You might want to consider if having a first print of a book is important to you, you definitely want to have a pull list, because a book like this will throw that all off. If you haven't ordered it and put it on your list, because these books are already in 3rd and 4th printings. I think they're only printing 1,500 at a time or something like that. Each store can only order 2 or 3 at a time, which I don't really understand either. But
so they're only printing 2,500,
right?
Because that's the minimum Diamond requires,
right?
And this company, that might be the maximum they can do. When we talk about the size of Black Mask. Yeah. When I first started dealing with Black Mask, it was 2 dudes in a garage.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a couple years ago. So, when you think about that, so they can only produce 2,500 at a time, because that's what they can afford, or it's what their capabilities are. So, putting that aside, stores are allocated, so they can order. A store could put in an order for 2,500.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna get 2.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't. The higher you order, the more likely you are to get, because usually you get a percentage of what you order, then it divides down. But most stores, if they only make 2,500 and 1,300 stores order, not even every store can get 2.
Right. So
you got to kind of deal with that. And I will say this, on a book like White, from a company as small as Black Mask, if you're worrying about first printings, you maybe are missing the point just a little. Because this is and when I say that, I mean that this is a book that you want to get to read more than anything. Because this is one of those books that's changing the complexion of comic books. Right? It's not just changing this company. They're going to be able to expand, and now next story they can do 3,000 copies because of the success of this one. They had a book years ago called Young Terrorists that was their biggest book ever, and it took them from 2 guys in a garage to 3 guys in a garage and storage unit. And that was their biggest book ever. Right. So that kind of, when you think about that kind of growth, so this is a book you want to get to read if you're really into collecting. And you're really into the speculator part of the new book market, and you desperately want a first print, then it's got to be on a pull list somewhere. And you've got to hope you're the only guy who walked into your comic book store and put it on your pull list, and that your comic book store saw the value and ordered it.
Right.
So that's kind of how a book like this comes to the situation where Imani's talking about.
Yeah, and it's been tricky because now, mind you, me personally, I'm not necessarily as bent out of shape as far as the later issues. I typically, it was that first issue that I was like, stressing out over, and I ended up having I was actually was able to get a copy from a shop from that's from the Comic Book Shopping Network, an exclusive variant of number one, um, which I'm very pleased with. But by then, the number one was gone. Like that wasn't getting in the first printing of that book. So, or unless, you could find a copy, but now it's going to be upwards of $30-$40. I'm fairly certain. So that's how the speculative part of all this comes into play, because this definitely was a book. And I just saw a picture of a Kickstarter, uh, a book from their Kickstarter actually made it out into the wild. Like they actually have been a year or two behind schedule as far as their Kickstarter. So I just actually saw somebody on Facebook with an actual copy of their Kickstarter pledge, which is great. So there's another exclusive part of this book. That book is probably going to be worth a crazy amount in the trade market, right? So there's a lot of buzz around this book. Also, this book has been optioned by HBO. No, by Warner Brothers, I should say, which I find very interesting because the premise of this book, just to remind people that are not familiar, this is the sequel to their first series called Black. And the premise behind this whole book is that just imagine a world where only Black folks gain superpowers. And there's basically there's a revolution going on. There's these, there's sort of like a X-Men type group that is, spearheading and protecting, members of the community that have powers, Black folks that have powers. So this is the second part of that series. And this has been optioned by Warner Brothers. And I find that interesting because this is the same company that also owns DC, who owns or co-owns Milestone. And I find it really interesting that this possibly could come out as a film or something like that. Yeah, go ahead.
That's not true anymore.
It's not?
Warner Brothers sold DC.
Really? When?
Like 4 months ago.
No.
Yeah.
To who?
Just the publishing wing.
No, you're lying.
I'll send you.
When did this happen? Huh?
Like 4 months ago.
How did I miss that?
I have no idea, but I'll send you the link.
Who they sell it to?
Discovery, the company that owns Discovery and Paramount.
Oh, that deal. No,
Yeah.
That wasn't DC. Wasn't in part of that, was it?
Yeah, just the publishing wing.
Are you sure? That seems odd. But Warner Brothers still owns the right to owns the film rights to DC, though, right? I would imagine, because that's how HBO Max ties into all that kind of stuff. And CW, Naomi's about to come out on television as a CW as well. So I think Warner Brothers is still tied in there anyway, some way, shape, form, or fashion. DC is weird.
DC Comics and WB Games were what was sold. DC, like cinematic and television, were not.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just like, the reason I remember this is I made the joke about very soon we will have a comic book where Aquaman meets the Deadliest Catch.
Right.
Because it's sold to Discovery.
Yeah, but now I don't know.
I don't know that they're going to do that, but I made the joke because I'm a terrible person.
You are a terrible person? No, I'm joking. No, it's weird. It's like, I don't know how that works exactly. But
yeah, it's all amounts of money neither of us will ever fully understand.
Right.
Flying through the air.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
yeah. But I said the link's in the private chat, bud.
Yeah, cool. I'm almost out of time. What's my next book? Or is that it? That's not it, is it? No, I think. Oh, mail call. All right, wait right here. Don't move. All right, check it out. So, mail call. I got this book, Break the Chain. It's by KRS-One. Includes the actual tape. This originally was in a poly bag, but of course, I wanted to add it to my collection, so I tore it open. And I plan on reading it, but one of the main reasons why I picked this up is because The Art of Kyle Baker, Eisner Award winner, very for his work on Plastic Man. But I wanted to pick it up because I'm a huge Kyle Baker fan. That's another way I collect. I collect some of my, like I said, authors and one of my favorite artists, and I have whole sections in my long boxes of just Kyle Baker books. So I have books like this. I have also picked up a copy of Birth of a Nation by him, Magruder, Aaron Magruder, and Reggie Hudlin. I have a few other, books. Truth, of course, from Marvel, the first Black Captain America. So I'm a huge Kyle Baker fan, and I picked this up. I might as well have. And I don't know what the general rule is as far as poly bags. I have a couple of books that are still in their poly bags, but I'm tempted to crack those open too. I guess for resale value, it's always good to keep them in a poly bag. But from what I understand, if you have them graded, they take the poly bag off. So it's something to consider when you have your book graded. If you ever send your book off to be slabbed, as they say, or graded by CDC or some type of grading company, I don't believe the poly bag matters all that much. So something to consider in that regard. But it comes with a tape, and I have nothing to play this on, so it'll stay in the bag for an eternity probably. So that's my pull list. And please visit my website, blackcomicsuniverse.com. I'm going to be sharing my keys every week, Black Comic Keys. There's books from the past that are significant to the Black comics collectors community. I'm going to be sharing additions to my pull list, and I possibly might be reviewing those books on my pull list. But maybe when you're older, I'm not sure if you're able to handle my unadulterated opinion, but we'll see. Thanks you guys for tuning in. Please stay tuned for Jen's Minute to Skim It coming up next. Peace.